This video is probably going to get us a lot of flack. It seems lately people are more interested in clickbaity titles like, "The NHS is collapsing! Doctors are leaving the UK! Doctors in the UK don't get paid anything! It's horrible! It's terrible!" Look, if y'all want to succumb to clickbait, or you can just keep watching this and get some cold hard facts. Hey guys, Breeze here. Today we're going to talk about why this is the best time for you as an international medical graduate to come and work in the United Kingdom as a doctor. I know those keyboard warriors out there are already primed and ready to say stuff like, "Oh, but Breeze, I read this news article, or I heard about this, or my friend said this, and I heard that, and pretty much everything is terrible and horrible, and why do you not talk about these things?" First of all, whatever we have on our channel is pretty much experience-based. Whatever we do is our experience. It's our actual payslips. It's us working that day in the hospital and talking about the things we have experienced and things that we have done to get to where we are. Whatever's happening outside of that, we don't really play much of a role in. Yes, I have held, leadership roles and positions in different organizations where I've managed to enact change on a local on a local basis, but the bigger picture, the things that are happening outside of that everyone seems to be obsessing about, that's just kind of a reality in a lot of healthcare systems around the world. I don't think there's any healthcare system out there that's completely perfect. I think what's important is you find whatever you think is happy enough for you to work in or work with. And if you're happy with that and you want to continue in that lifestyle, by all means. But please don't think for any second that we need to explain or defend any sort of policies or laws that the politicians have put into place. Yes, things are not perfect in the United Kingdom, things are not perfect in the NHS, but like I said, things aren't perfect anywhere. I've already made videos about why I left the United States, and I don't regret those reasons at all. I think I've made the perfect decision for myself. If, however, you just want to spend all of your time obsessing over things that other people are saying, or basically, I keep saying fear-mongering, but it is a little bit of fear-mongering, because if you read about what's happening in other places around the world, and I'm sure there's already a reason why you, sitting there in your country, have thought, "I need to leave this country, I need to go somewhere else." There was something out there that wasn't sitting well with you, that you were like, "I actually need to leave." So wherever you choose to go, whatever refuge you choose to seek, it's for the betterment of you and your future. So just think of it like that, and let's get into this video. If this is the first time you're checking out our channel, welcome. Basically what we do is we run a website that's totally free known as roadtok.com, and it will explain the ins and outs about everything related to the United Kingdom and what it takes for you to work as a doctor in the NHS. So if you've not already, please stalk us on all of our social media. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Now, the first and most important thing is the removal of something known as RLMT, or the Resident Labor Market Test, in October 2019. This was removed. And prior to that, if you weren't a British EU or EEA citizen, guess what? You weren't considered first in terms of hiring in an NHS job or even in a training application. A lot of times you'd hear people say, "Oh, we have to wait for the re-advert for training," or what they called round 2, and you weren't the primary pick. Doctors weren't on what they call a shortage occupancy list, so there wasn't necessarily that kind of demand for a doctor, and there was a chance you might not get your visa, even though you got a job. And if they felt like they had somebody locally that they could hire, they would hire them preferentially over you because that was the law. That was something they had put into place. But the removal of RLMT basically opened the floodgates. It didn't matter what your passport said or what your nationality was or where you even graduated from. If you were a better candidate in terms of your experience or whatever else the job put forth, guess what? You were the better candidate, and they were going to take you rather than anyone else, regardless of nationality or passport. So it's a really big thing when they removed RLMT, because effectively you could do whatever you want. You could apply for a non-training job, you could apply for a training job, and the sky was the limit. Now, of course, bells are going to be ringing. People are going to be talking about saturation. Guys, we've already done a video on saturation. Check that out. I'm not going to get into that again. In summation, shortage occupancy list, good for IMGs. In that vein, because of this removal, you can now apply for competitive specialties across the board. It used to be in a lot of the competitive specialties in that re-advert or that round 2. There were no seats left over because the British EU EEA nationals had already filled them up. But now that you can apply in the first round alongside them, guess what?
international medical graduates across the country are entering into competitive specialties without a problem. And if we look a little more into it, we also now have a new visa, the Health and Care visa, which is considerably less expensive than the previous visa they had out for us, the Tier 2 visa. And alongside that, those of you who are applying under the Health and Care visa, you no longer have to pay the International Health Surcharge, or the IHS, that used to be there, which was basically like an extra fee of insurance that international individuals would have to pay when they got a visa to come to the UK. So you have a cheaper visa and no more IHS. Another thing, something that we have also covered in another video, but I will mention again here, it used to be that if you graduated from certain countries and you already had an EU/EEA passport, guess what? You were already golden. You could get into the UK without a problem. Now, though, it's even better. It doesn't matter what your nationality is. It doesn't matter what passport you hold. If you're graduating from certain EU/EEA countries, you don't even have to worry about an exam for GMC registration. You are getting your registration on the basis of your primary medical qualification or your medical degree. The only thing you're worried about is IELTS or OET, but things like PLAB, you don't have to take them. You don't have to worry about them. You can get GMC registration, either provisional or full, depending on where you're graduating from. Many times international graduates will come to us and they have a certain amount of experience, or they've worked for a certain period of time in their home country, and they're under this belief that they must start from the very beginning if they come to the UK. Like, they have to do the foundation program, or they have to start as an intern or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you have the right qualifications, you've already done what's necessary, it is very much possible for your competencies and your experience to be considered in the United Kingdom, and you don't have to start at the very bottom. You might be able to start in the middle, a little bit higher up in the middle, or even become a consultant straight off without you having to worry about doing anything all over again. So these pathways are available. There are equivalent competencies that can be recognized, and there are ways for you to enter a specialist register in this manner. The other really nifty thing that's come into play, although it's been there for a while, but I think a lot of people aren't aware of it, is you can bring your dependents with you, and your dependents can live and work, and they're also covered by the NHS. Now, let me explain what a dependent is. A dependent is your spouse and your children, and that's it, unfortunately. It doesn't go before or after that. But the important key thing to remember here is, if your spouse, whether they're a doctor or not, come with you and they wish to work, so long as they have the legal right to work in terms of if they need registration, if they're a doctor or any other job, they can. The dependent visa allows them to work. Your children can go to school, they can also work if they're at the legal age to work, and they are all covered by the same National Health Service that you were working for. And finally, when you come on this health and care visa, it is in effect an immigrant visa, which means after 5 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain, which is a form of permanent residency. Within that 5 years' time, you are basically working on this health and care visa. You would get a new visa depending on how much time that contract is, and you would continue, and it would add up, and you get to 5 years. You hit the 5 years mark, you apply for your ILR. 1 year after your application for ILR, you can apply for British citizenship, and this would also extend to your dependents, so long as you're all on the same page when you come into the country. So the really nice thing is, you can actually effectively plan that in 5 years' time, all right, I'll have a permanent residency status, and in 6 years' time total, I would have citizenship. Now you might ask me, well, Breeze, why does that make this the best time? Like, it sounds like some of these things were already there. Yeah, sure, some of these things were already there, but the process overall has become much more streamlined, much easier. If you talk to some international medical graduates who came to this country like 10, 15 years ago, they will tell you how the system was completely different, and the kind of, hoops and hurdles they had to go through in order to just think about maybe starting a training program. Like, if you wanted to, if you were sitting in your home country right now and you met the criteria, you can apply directly into a training program and start your first job in the NHS in a training program. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. You can join whatever training program your heart's desires. Even if in your home country you train to be one thing, if you want to come to the UK and train to something else, you can. The flexibility that life in the United Kingdom affords you as a doctor is something one should consider when you're thinking about how can you maintain that work-life balance, how can you ensure you have that kind of life that you want to build towards. There are a lot of aspects of things that you might be considering, a lot of things that other people are saying that you might get kind of confused about. But remember, it's ultimately what's best for you and your future, because the other people who are saying these things, they're not going to be on this journey with you. It's going to be you and your family, or maybe it's just you, and that's cool too. So whatever you decide to do, make that pros and cons list about what you see yourself doing, where you see yourself going, and what kind of future you see, what kind of life you want to be living in whatever amount of time, or, a decade or two from now. But remember, guys, it's very important for you to do your own homework. It's very important to understand the importance of correct source finding, to actually know what people are saying is actual fact, and understanding that. It's very easy to read headlines. It's a little bit harder to read what's actually written in the paper. And it's a little bit more difficult to understand objectively in the realm of the world what's happening right now. Where are we and what is happening? So I think my little takeaway for you all in this video is whatever you want to do, you do it. However you want to live your life, live it. These are just my experiences, my opinion, my thoughts. Our whole channel is based on that. It's not that we have some sort of studio set up where we pretend to be working in a hospital, or we've got a fake payslip, or anything that we're doing is completely staged. No, of course not. It's all there because we think it's really important for people who are deciding this route to really see the ins and outs in the day-to-day. And that's what we try and present as objectively as possible. And however you want to take it, and however you want to live your life, live it. So until next time, please continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff, you can always book a personalized guidance session, or you can check out our forum, or even subscribe to our newsletter. And we will see you next time. Bye.